Growing tensions. North Korea's leader calls for troops to be on war footing after trading fire with their southern neighbors. ISIS strikes again. Terrorists in Syria decimate one of the country's oldest Christian churches. Remembering the victims, we visit a New Orleans neighborhood who honors one of their own a decade after Hurricane Katrina. And the proof is in the pudding. 60 years after they were married, a Florida couple is still digging into their wedding cake. Those stories and more on EWTN News Nightly for Friday, August 21st, 2015. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Wyatt Goolsby in for Brian Patrick tonight. The St. Louis police chief says an autopsy confirmed an 18-year-old shot and killed by police died from a single wound in the back. It's not clear what exactly unfolded. This as the community deals with unrest once again between police and protesters. A car set on fire, houses burning out of control, and businesses burglarized. All of this after two white police officers shot and killed an 18-year-old armed African-American male Wednesday in St. Louis. Residents took to the streets shortly after hearing about the shooting. Police tried to clear the scene, but when protesters refused to move, the police moved in. A line of officers with riot shields began marching. According to police, protesters began throwing bricks and bottles at them. Police responded by filling the air with tear gas. Some residents believe the police overreacted, using too much force.
Police are driving down the street shooting tear gas where kids are.
Over the loudspeaker, it was repeatedly given. This is the first warning, this is the second warning, this is the third and fourth warning.
This all began when police were carrying out a search warrant in a high-crime area. Two suspects fled the home. Police gave chase. According to officials, one suspect, Mansur Balbay, turned and pointed a gun at officers. Two officers opened fire, killing Balbay. The grass left stained with his blood.
There were two officers in the alley. Both officers fired. The suspect was struck. He dropped his gun and continued to run through a gangway until he collapsed.
Police say 4 guns were recovered from the shooting scene, 3 of them stolen. Police brace for more violence, worried about relations between the police and the public since the shooting death of Michael Brown just over a year ago, just miles away in Ferguson. Now to some of the other stories our EWTN News Nightly team has been covering in today's world. A court grants the Little Sisters of the Poor short-term shelter from the HHS mandate. Today's ruling means the protection granted last year by the Supreme Court will remain in place until the High Court rules on their case. The sisters run 30 homes in the U.S. for the elderly, poor, and dying. The mandate requires the order to provide coverage of abortion-inducing drugs and other contraceptives for employees. The Supreme Court is expected to rule on their petition for long-term relief this fall. After months of back-and-forth conversations, the Archdiocese of San Francisco and a group of teachers come to an agreement on a labor contract. Archbishop Salvatore Cordeleone initially proposed moral clauses for the teachers. However, a group of teachers argued they didn't want their private lives linked to their jobs. The approved labor agreement does not include the moral clauses, but does state the purpose of a Catholic school is to affirm Catholic values through the gospel of Jesus Christ. North Korea orders troops to be prepared in case of a military conflict on its southern border. Top North Korean officials met today to discuss growing tensions with South Korea. A North Korean state-run newspaper released photos of leader Kim Jong-un meeting with his cabinet. North and South Korea traded artillery fire over the demilitarized zone Thursday. North Korea has warned the South it faces military action if it doesn't turn off propaganda loudspeakers at the border. Authorities have now tripled the reward for information leading to the arrest of the Bangkok bomber to $84,000. The suspect was seen on surveillance video leaving a backpack at the shrine minutes before the explosion. The Thai government has accepted an offer from the U.S. to use facial recognition technology in their investigation. Today, religious leaders from multiple faiths joined together in ceremonies in memory of the 20 people who died Monday. Greece is headed for its 5th national election in just 6 years. This after the Greek Prime Minister announces his resignation. The president of Greece is asking the main opposition to form a new government, but it's unlikely that's going to happen. It comes one day after Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras stepped down and called for an early election next month. Many see the move as an attempt to get the Greek people's support for a 3-year bailout program. ISIS terrorists destroy an ancient monastery in central Syria. The extremists posted photos online showing bulldozers destroying the St. Elion Monastery. There are also reports ISIS wrecked a church inside the monastery dating back to the first Christian century. Since capturing parts of Syria and Iraq, ISIS has destroyed mosques, churches, and archaeological sites. Hillary Clinton's campaign for president has hit a rocky patch. The clear frontrunner on the Democratic side continues to face tough criticism over the email scandal from her time as Secretary of State. Jason Calvi reports.
She's still the leader of the race for president, but the campaign of former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is starting to show some vulnerabilities.
Our party's label is going to be the latest news du jour about emails and email servers and what Secretary Clinton knew and when she knew it.
That's the former governor of Maryland, Martin O'Malley, who also wants the Democratic nomination. O'Malley has been reluctant to criticize Clinton, but as the controversy over her use of a private email server grows, O'Malley is changing his tone.
I think that it's a huge distraction from what we should be talking about as a party.
And as Democrats start to feel that they can safely target Clinton, Republicans are ramping up their attacks.
What we shouldn't do is to create more free stuff without any reforms attached. That's the progressive liberal top-down way. That's the Hillary way.
You see, people like Hillary Clinton think that it's okay that success in government is measured by how many people are dependent on the government.
Clinton's campaign is pushing back.
And it's not as if we didn't expect this to happen in this campaign.
They've sent an army of surrogates to argue the attacks are nothing more than a political distraction.
In this case, it's this issue on the campaign trail on Capitol Hill and trying to make it a partisan issue.
Meanwhile, polls show Clinton slipping in the Democratic race, and a new CNN ORC poll shows Clinton leading the GOP frontrunner Donald Trump by only 6 points nationally. A Quinnipiac poll in the key swing state of Florida shows Trump narrowly ahead of Clinton, 43 to 41%.
The Quinnipiac poll also found in Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, only a third of voters think Clinton is honest. And fellow Democrats are not siding with the former Secretary of State either. Senator Bill Nelson of Florida says the campaign hasn't handled the issue well. Wyatt?
Jason Calvi, thanks very much for that report. Planned Parenthood threatens legal action against the pro-life group behind the undercover videos into the abortion provider. In an exclusive interview with The Hill, a Planned Parenthood executive says the group is considering everything in going after the Center for Medical Progress. The 7 released videos claim the abortion provider illegally harvests and sells aborted baby parts, even if the baby is delivered alive. The videos have led to both state and federal investigations into Planned Parenthood. This week, Republican presidential candidate Rick Santorum was visibly upset when talking about the issue.
Of course, that doesn't horrify anybody who are supporters of Planned Parenthood. This doesn't bother people. Why? Because, well, it's, this is just the ugly business of what abortion is. I mean, these are children that, these are not wanted, and therefore they're subhuman, and we can treat them. We can treat little children alive, and we can remove their brains.
Santorum says not only would he defund Planned Parenthood, but he says he would prosecute the organization. As the controversy surrounding Planned Parenthood continues, a network of professional pro-life clinics are successfully competing with the abortion giant. Earlier this week, Brian Patrick spoke with Kathleen Eaton-Bravo, the founder of Obria Medical Clinics.
Kathleen, you've transformed your clinics from pregnancy resource centers to full-service medical facilities. Why that change?
Well, first we started as a pregnancy resource center. It's basically giving out resources and referrals, but I knew that what women really needed was medical care. And so I looked at the competitor, Planned Parenthood, our competitor, and I wanted to create a business model that could compete with them nose to nose. So we went community clinic, full community clinic, offering a full array of services needed by women, from STD testing and treatment to pregnancy care, ultrasound, to HIV/AIDS, to well woman care, pap smears, and of course, OB care. And we pretty much offer all the services Planned Parenthood offers, minus abortion and contraception.
So in following their model, what sets you apart, and how is your facility at an advantage to Planned Parenthood by following their model?
Well, as a pregnancy resource center, we saw about 500 women a year, and 90% of those were for resources. When we converted to a medical model and licensed with the state of California so I could compete nose to nose, our numbers went up somewhere between 10,000 and 13,000 a year. So basically, I just felt that if we really wanted to compete with Planned Parenthood, I couldn't do it at the level of legal or the law. And but what I could do is create a competitive model to get the patients out of their clinic and into our clinics. And that's what we did, and it's worked.
And haven't they, in fact, referred patients to you?
They actually do refer patients to us because they don't do OB care in their clinics. So if they cannot convince the woman to have an abortion, and she adamantly says, I want to go through with this pregnancy, then they actually refer her to us. They also refer the patients to us for ultrasounds because they charge for an ultrasound because they can't bill in California for an ultrasound unless it's high risk. So they actually say, you know, we're going to send you over here to have a free ultrasound. Just don't tell them that you're going to have an abortion because they'll try to talk you out of it. And of course, we have a conversion rate of somewhere between 78 and 82%. So we actually, it's not talking them out of it. We just, of course, care for them, love them, and show them the ultrasound and the baby in the womb, and it does change their mind.
And I'm sure that is a very effective strategy. Kathleen Eaton-Bravo, Obria Medical Clinics, joining us from Orange, California by Skype. Thank you, Kathleen.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Coming up, we go to Rome to learn more about an international organization fighting what some call modern-day slavery and remembering the victims of Hurricane Katrina 10 years later. Today is the feast day of St. Pius X. He is known as the Pope of the Eucharist since he lowered the age for First Communion. St. Pius, pray for us. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Wyatt Goolsby. This Sunday marks the UN's International Day for the Remembrance of the Slave Trade and its abolition. It's held on August 23rd each year to remind people of the tragedy of the transatlantic slave trade. The day also pays tribute to those who worked hard to abolish slavery throughout the world. Sister Gabriella Butani joins us now from Rome. She's with the Talitha Cum International Network. It's a coalition of consecrated people who work with victims of human trafficking. Sister Gabriella, your organization combats this problem. How exactly do you do that?
Okay, we are a worldwide network, so we are present in around 80 countries, and we are doing a very different work, but mainly we are working the prevention of human trafficking. And we have many shelters to welcome survivors of human trafficking, resocialization project, and many other work, especially in lobbying.
And nowadays you are based in Rome, but previously in the past you've served in Brazil. What is it like to serve there on the ground?
It's a wonderful experience for me. I learned really a lot. Especially through the contact with people suffering for human trafficking. One of the most important things, the proximity with these people taught me how important it is, the relationship with them, to be aware that human trafficking exists, and also how important it is to find out together way and path of freedom for everyone, for every person.
Now, certainly, Sister, this is a global crisis. What do you think everyday citizens like us can do to stop this modern form of slavery?
We can do really many things, more than we believe. First of all, we have to be aware, and we have to understand and to believe that human trafficking exists, that we still have slavery. So we have to work, I think, especially to reduce the causes, to counteract the causes of human trafficking. And the most important of them are poverty, social inequity, gender inequity, race inequity. But there are also, we always said, sisters, then if we have trafficked people, for example, for sexual exploitation, it means that there is also a demand. So we can work also to reduce the demand of trafficking. And of course, I think that we have to reduce corruption.
Sure, and certainly in the meantime, I know all of us here are going to be offering our prayers for this situation as well. Sister Gabriella Butani with the Talitha Cum International Network, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
English and Dutch researchers say the secret to sustained happiness is participating in religious activities. A A recent study analyzed 9,000 Europeans over the age of 50. Researchers looked at 4 areas in people's lives: volunteering, education, religion, and community participation. The only social activity connected to sustained happiness was participation in a religious organization. Monsignor Stephen Rossetti is a licensed psychologist and the author of the book, Why Priests Are Happy. Monsignor, why do you think some people would be surprised with this latest study?
Well, Wyatt, I think the secular lie is that religion somehow makes you unhappy, that these dogmas, these religions kind of constrain human freedom. But the reality is that studies consistently show, like this one, that religious people are happier people. I mean, religion helps to make you happy.
And what do you think it is about religion specifically as opposed to a number of other factors that brings happiness?
Well, I think it's a few things. One, there's the human side of it. You're belonging to an organization of people. You're in relationship, which is very important for us. Secondly, often you're involved in helping others, serving others. Churches often do that. And third, of course, is the God dimension, that we're meant to be in relationship to God.
You've also found that priests, among your own studies, that priests are among the happiest people in their jobs. Monsignor, why do you think that's not often talked about and presented in the mainstream media?
I think, quite, if you said that on the street, people would guffaw at you. You say, well, priests are among the happiest people in this country. The British government ran a study also of over 200 occupations and found out that clergy were the happiest people in the UK as well. My own study showed that 90% of priests are very happy or happier in their jobs. So actually, in their vocation. So actually, being a priest in a religious is a very happy life. But people don't realize that this life of service, this life of love, this life of prayer is what we're meant to be like. So I just encourage people, if they feel a sense of vocation or think they might have vocation, to jump in. You know, it's a great life, and priests are happy.
And it's a great message for everyone to follow their own vocation and to listen to God's call for their own lives. Monsignor Stephen Rossetti, thank you so much for your insight as always.
You're welcome, Wyatt. Thanks for having me.
A little over a week from now, Americans will mark 10 years since Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans. A decade later, Catherine Zeltner reports on how a community remembers one of its victims.
It was a city underwater, rescuers going house to house by boat and helicopter. Survivors delivered to safety from their rooftops. Bodies were floating in the streets. There are some of the unforgettable images from Hurricane Katrina, along with this one, the makeshift grave for a 66-year-old woman who died during the chaos that followed the storm. Her body left behind.
When I saw Miss Vera laying just 15 feet from us here, that admonition from catechism, bury the dead.
A decade later, John Lee returns to the corner of Jackson Avenue and Magazine Street, where the people of New Orleans had said enough. Vera Smith's body had been left decaying on the street for 4 days after a possible hit and run. Responders too busy tending to the living. Lee and others finally took matters into their own hands.
And Miss Vera was not only an indignity, a human indignity, but she was a health hazard.
Now a memorial decorated by a local artist stands in place as a reminder. The 6 words on the shroud became more than about one victim, but a city in despair.
She became kind of a symbol for all of us of the things that happened that nobody had a good explanation for.
The symbol of destruction also represents how the community rallied.
It was a time of people helping people with food, water, protection, and burying the dead.
Including a vibrant woman who had 2 daughters and left her mark on the community long before Katrina. Catherine Zeltner, EWTN News Nightly.
Up next, a Florida couple married for 60 years is still enjoying a tasty tradition from their wedding day. Reading the gospel every day helps us to overcome our selfishness and to follow Jesus, our teacher, with dedication. A tweet from Pope Francis today. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Wyatt Goolsby. Priests for Life kicks off a prayer campaign to end abortion and Planned Parenthood. The campaign will be marked by a coordinated nationwide protest outside Planned Parenthood clinics. The group also encourages participants to pray for a conversion of abortion doctors and to strengthen pro-life activists to persevere. Dr. Day Gardner is the president of the National Black Pro-Life Union and involved in the prayer campaign. Day, speaking of the importance of the campaign includes protests outside the Planned Parenthood. Tell us a little bit first off just about the importance of the campaign as a whole.
Well, of course, it's very important. We see now with these pro-life, the videos that have recently come out, and of course everyone is seeing how important it is. But we've always known that. We know that babies are dying in these places. We're finding out with these videos now, especially the Planned Parenthood videos, that's what I'm talking about, that babies are dismembered. They are harvested for their organs in the most brutal and the most horrific ways. The newest video actually shows that the baby that they harvested, baby boy, actually was alive. His heart was beating when they decided to harvest him, and they did that through cutting through his face. The most horrific things, we don't want to talk about it. People don't like to think about it, but it's the truth, and we must know the truth.
And there's so much emotion when people watch that kind of a video and see what's going on. And when people have that kind of reaction to Planned Parenthood, I know a lot of people want to lash out against it. But what's the appropriate way to protest outside of a Planned Parenthood? What's the right thing to do? And
as we always say, it's always with love. You love a lot of the women who are going into those places are, first of all, lied to. A lot of times they're taken there by their parents. They're taken there by a boyfriend, maybe an abusive boyfriend or a pimp. A lot of times it's out of frustration, don't know what to do or exactly what's going to happen behind those doors. We know that not only does their child is going to be killed, but many of those women come out very emotionally distraught. They are physically harmed. Many of them don't make it out at all because many of those women die there right on the table. So the most important thing is to do it with passion and with love, and to convince them, especially in the name of Jesus Christ, how important these children are. And I think that that's the best way to approach them, to just let them know that you love them. This is not about, condemning the woman, except to say that, you know what, there's another way. There's no reason ever to kill your child.
Really quickly, because of these videos, many people are exposed to the ugly truths about abortion, but the history of Planned Parenthood has always been ugly, isn't it?
It has always been ugly. The thing is, it was started by Margaret Sanger. Margaret Sanger she actually came up with, she's the founder of the Negro Project in 1939, which was to eliminate the number of blacks which was a growing population at the time. She is the founder of Planned Parenthood. They're using the same business model that they used back then today, and that was to put to go into the black churches, to hire black pastors to take the message of abortion and sterilization to their community, to their members, and that's exactly what's happening today. Still, they're using the black population, black ministers, a lot of people, to go into the black neighborhoods, which is where Planned Parenthood sets up their chop shop, and are still taking the same message of destruction to the black community.
And obviously have been doing that for years, so we appreciate
many years.
Yeah, we appreciate your being here and letting us know about the campaign and talking to us about this.
August 22nd through the 29th, we hope that everyone will join us out there at Planned Parenthood facilities. This is so important. Let's pray to end abortion.
Very good. Dr. Day Gardner, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
A Florida couple married for 60 years can have their wedding cake and eat it too. Ann and Ken Fredericks have been taking a bite from the top layer of their wedding cake on their anniversary every year. They store it in the coffee can above the refrigerator, pour a little brandy over it, and take a bite. Now, 60 years later, their children are appalled by the tradition, but the couple says the cake is still tasty.
I have to say, it's dry. It tastes a little dry, but it tastes like cake. It tastes like dark fruit cake. Now, dark fruit cake has a totally different taste than the cakes of today, the white cakes and so on.
Take a piece.
The Fredericks say they usually have a bottle of champagne with their wedding cake each year. Afterwards, they watch a recording of their wedding ceremony. Well, I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm more inclined to agree with the children about eating old wedding cake, but God bless that couple. And we thank you for watching our newscast tonight. For the entire team, I'm Wyatt Goolsby. We leave you tonight with a look at the altar where Pope Francis will celebrate Mass. It's being installed tonight at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception. Have a great weekend, and God bless.